Matt.
No problem.
Matt's a Dodger fan. He's used to the Braves. He's used to the Braves fans.
Okay, now I'm ready.
All right, here we go. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Steve Hartline for Mix TV. Of course, you see behind me all of our stations back here. And I am privileged to be joined once again by my friend Matt Belloni of Puck. The Puck site, which is really catching on big time. We interviewed Matt, I guess, right? Matt, wasn't it toward the launch, I guess, we interviewed the first time, didn't we?
I think it was right around the launch. Yeah, that was September, so it's been a few months.
It sure has. Well, Matt, welcome back. And my goodness, I read your columns every week. I'm a subscriber to the site. You guys are doing such a wonderful job. So I want to begin, though, by the column you did this past Sunday, which was really going to be my first question to you is the Netflix bad news, the bad news at Netflix. Tell me about that.
So Netflix has had a pretty remarkable run-up over the past few years, and especially during the pandemic. I mean, makes sense. People are staying home. They're going to subscribe to more services. And Netflix is the leading service. It's got 222 million subscribers around the world now. But that was not enough for Wall Street because Netflix had projected that they would grow faster, especially overseas. And when Netflix projected that it would only add about 2.5 million subscribers this quarter, the stock just absolutely tanked. It's now lost, as of this recording, about a third of its value in just 3 or 4 days, which is a pretty remarkable turnaround. It's now at pre-pandemic levels. It's down to around 2018 levels. And that has a big repercussion throughout the entire streaming video industry because Disney has sort of latched its wagon to the streaming universe with Disney Plus and Hulu. Some of the others, and their stocks are all down. And the thinking now is that the streaming video universe, which is going to replace cable TV, is going to grow more slowly than people anticipated.
Well, certainly it's the way it appears. And like you said, I mean, it's not panic time, but is it some sort of reality check as to where we really are?
Well, my take on this is that the Netflix stock price was never realistic. I mean, it was valued like it was Facebook or Amazon or one of these companies that has fundamentally changed how people communicate. Netflix is a television network, essentially. It's global and it's delivered over the internet, but it's a TV network. And it's always been an entertainment company that just happens to be enabled by this technology. So my thesis is, what if it's just an entertainment company? Shouldn't be valued like Facebook. It should be valued more like the traditional entertainment companies. And it needs to grow, yes, but it's a fine business. It's going to be successful. Nobody thinks Netflix is going away. They just raised prices in the U.S., which is a sign that they have a lot of market power in this market. And they're going to be around forever.
Matt Belloni, Puck.News. And Matt, so let's get an update now on how the other streaming networks are doing. And, what do you make of the entire field as it stands now?
It's an interesting time because, there's going to be a shakeout. I think even a regular consumer of these services knows there's probably too many of them. And ultimately there will be 3, 4, maybe 5 total. So right now, all these companies are in a battle for being in that exclusive global streaming service fraternity. And I think Netflix will be there. I think Amazon Prime Video will be there just because Amazon is so big. Apple TV has a great streaming service that's small, but it's Apple. So all they're concerned themselves with is keeping you in that Apple ecosystem and getting you to buy more phones. The others are a little bit dicier. Disney, I think, has made big strides with their streaming service, Disney Plus, but they're now hitting up against a wall where they sort of convinced all of the parents with kids and all the Marvel and Star Wars fans to sign up. But beyond that, there's not that much there for people who aren't those people. So Disney has to kind of figure out how to grow their service without those kinds of adult-oriented franchises. Now, Disney owns Hulu, and Hulu has some of that stuff, and Hulu is a great service, primarily known for airing repeats of broadcast TV shows from the night before, but it has a great original content, and it has, Disney as its backer. Currently, it's owned 30% by Comcast, but that will end. And most people think that Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN, which are now sold as a bundle, will ultimately merge into the same service. And then Disney will have its global streaming service that can take on Netflix. Beyond that, though, the other services out there are in a tough spot.
One of those being Peacock, and your colleague at Puck, Dylan Byers, recently reported that Peacock got so little help in subscribers from the summer games, they weren't even reported on the Comcast earnings call. Will these winter games that are coming up, rife with all kinds of controversy already going in? Wall Street Journal yesterday did an article about how the major sponsors, some paying as much as $1 billion, are not even doing ad campaigns ahead of time. Will the winter games help Peacock, do you think?
The winter games are interesting because for the first time, you can watch and have a full Winter Olympics experience on Peacock without having a cable or broadcast subscription to NBC. And that was not the case for the summer games last year. The Peacock stuff was additive, and they put some big games like the USA basketball on Peacock, but you could still have a full experience on NBC, just not on Peacock. So it'll be interesting to see if that boosts subscribers here. I don't know if it's going to, because the ratings overall for these China games are going to be so much lower. The excitement is lower. They're not going to have fans in the stands again. There's so many protocols, athletes not going. So, I don't know how much, and the time difference for the U.S. is terrible in China. The games are all going to be covered in the media before they're actually shown. So I don't know how much of a bump that NBC is going to get, which certainly hurts them in the pocketbook. But NBC has made a long-term commitment to the Olympics. They're not looking at just these games. They're looking to get through this, and then they're really looking at, beyond that down the line.
Matt Belloni with Puck.News, and they're doing a tremendous job. I noticed you added a new editor or a new columnist. Is that right?
Yes. Eric Gardner is joining us at the end of the month. He's a legal writer. He's going to cover all the big disputes going on, big tech, big content, big media, all of it.
And I guess he was one of your colleagues when you were with the Hollywood Reporter. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was actually my first hire a long time ago at Hollywood Reporter, and he's come aboard. We're reunited. It'll be fun.
Well, I want to just a couple more topics, then we'll let you go. This impending deal between Discovery and Warner Media coming together, which AT&T spinning off, and it's interesting. I believe I heard about Tinderbox from your column with James Andrew Miller, which I'm reading right now, and it's extremely fascinating. Where are we on the timeline of Discovery and Warner Media right now?
Right now, they are doing their due diligence. These two big companies, AT&T is spinning off the Warner Media assets, which is the Warner Brothers Studio, HBO, the Turner Network, CNN. They're being merged spun off into a new company that's going to be merged with Discovery and run by the Discovery CEO, David Zaslav. Right now, they're expecting to close that second quarter of this year. But the big wild card here is what the federal government is going to do, because the Department of Justice has indicated it's going to be taking a very close look at a lot of these big mergers. This is certainly a big merger. Most people believe that it will get through because ultimately these companies are not nearly as big as the big tech companies that they are competing with, like Facebook and Google and Amazon. But if the Justice Department decides it's going to challenge this deal, it could delay it year, 2 years, just like the original sale of the Warner Media assets to AT&T was delayed because the Trump administration went after that one. And that was driven partially because I think there was a skepticism about CNN Trump himself did not like CNN, but also there were concerns about consolidation. And ultimately, that court trial ruled that the merger could go ahead. But any kind of delay here is going to be really damaging because this is, as I said, we're in a streaming war right now where these streaming services are battling to be the top streamers in the world. And HBO Max, which is the Warner Media streamer, is absolutely a player here. I didn't mention it before, but it is absolutely a player, and it has grown significantly in the past year, partially because all the Warner Brothers movies were available on the service. And it's in any delay there and being able to bulk that up, it's going to be damaging.
You had a fascinating conversation with Jason Kylar, who's currently in power there, but almost certainly going to be going away. What do you make? He's the guy really though that came out and said, "Look, we're going to stream all our movies."
Yeah, the decision to put all of the Warner Brothers movies in 2021 on the HBO Max service the day that they were in theaters was very controversial at the time, partially because it was a middle finger towards the theaters, which it had really counted on these exclusive releases, but also because the talent that made all these movies didn't want to see their product go direct to video, so to speak. The director Christopher Nolan came out very strongly against this. The director of Dune, Denis Villeneuve, came out very strongly against this plan. And Warner's responded by just paying people. They said, you know what? We're going to pay you off as if these movies were big hits. We're going to avoid any problems with you, and then we're going to experiment. And say what you will about the ultimate wisdom of doing this, but the desired effect was to build up subscribers to HBO Max, and it absolutely succeeded in that effort because HBO Max now has what I believe it's in the mid 70 million subscribers. It was the fastest growing streaming service for most of 2021. It's a combination of the HBO content plus Max exclusives plus the Warner Brothers movies. That was a big, big selling point. We'll see if it can keep that up in 2022 because those movies are not going directly to streaming anymore. Warner Brothers has committed to a 45-day window in theaters for their movies, and there will be a separate slate of movies that are going directly to HBO Max, things like a Father of the Bride sequel, things that are more in the kind of direct-to-video wheelhouse. But I actually like the HBO Max service. I think, for me, it's got a lot more interesting stuff than, something like Netflix or Hulu because it's got all those old Warner Brothers movies that HBO shows.
Yeah. One last question about Discovery and Warner. What do you think about Jeff Zucker? You mentioned CNN earlier. Do you think he hangs around?
I do think so. He has a long relationship with the new CEO of Discovery Warner Brothers or Warner Brothers Discovery. And Zucker has been a polarizing figure, but he's been a successful figure for the most part. The problem is that CNN hasn't really pivoted away from the Trump years where it became kind of a voice of the resistance. And the ratings at CNN have really cratered since Trump left office. So they're going to have to figure out what the plan is there at CNN to resuscitate its ratings. And I know the new leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery really wants CNN in the U.S. to have a brand more like CNN around the world, where it's not been politicized and it's more just known as the news. I don't know how you do that and juice ratings, but that's the challenge there. And they also have their own streaming service that they're launching in CNN Plus, where they're going to bring a lot of the talent from CNN over to CNN Plus, similar to what Fox has done with Fox Nation, and have it as a separate service that you can get online. Ultimately, I think it will be bundled in with the HBO Max product so that it becomes a huge, big Netflix competitor that offers news, which is something Netflix does not.
All right, couple quick hits here. Speaking of CNN, they reported yesterday as we tape this on Monday that, I should say, not really yesterday, it's today, this morning as we tape this, Brian Williams was approached to anchor the CBS Evening News. He turned down the new co-president of CBS News. What does this say about the state of the evening newscast, which still about 25 million people watch every night? What does this say about Brian Williams? What does this say about Norah O'Donnell, for that matter?
Well, having not discussed this with Brian Williams or his rep, we can only speculate as to his thinking. But the fact of the matter is that the nightly newscast, while still drawing a huge audience compared to others, is not the lure that it once was. It was once considered the pinnacle of a broadcast news career to be the anchor of the nightly newscast. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore, or at least it's not the case for someone like Brian Williams, who has done that already and went to MSNBC in sort of a scandal where he had fabricated some anecdotes about his history. That reputation has kind of been amended, and he will have choices where he wants to go. And I'm sure that he probably wants, I'm not sure, I speculate he probably wants to do something different. The more interesting thing here is if CBS is reaching out to Brian Williams, what does that mean for Norah O'Donnell, who currently has that job? There's been a lot of speculation about her future because the ratings have not improved since she's been in that job for a little more than 2 years. She was the choice of the previous head of CBS News, who is no longer in that role. There are new leaders of CBS News, so presumably there will be a new horse to bet on in that nightly news, CBS Evening News slot. We don't know who that's going to be. Apparently they are looking if they're reaching out to Brian Williams. But Norah O'Donnell could very easily leave CBS News and go elsewhere. And I think her representatives are looking at the landscape right now. On the other hand, CBS has announced a slate of shows for its digital streaming service, and Norah O'Donnell is in that list. So maybe CBS is planning on her coming back. We'll see if they try to redo her deal or take evening news away from her. That's going to be a big narrative to follow in the next year.
It's interesting. Her ratings are lower than her predecessor, Jeff Glor, who might be a nice guy, but hardly a household name. Final question. I have followed with great interest your coverage and others of the Oscars and the upcoming Oscar broadcast. And Variety came out with a story about a week ago or so, a little less, talking about, first of all, ABC came out and said, yes, we are going to have a host, maybe more than one host. So here's what Variety said. They say, okay, The Rock said no, Kevin Hart, Jimmy Kimmel, no, but they say, and I want to get your reaction to this, they say the dream team for the Oscars, if they do more than one, Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. There's a precedent here for multiple host Oscars. Does it matter?
Well, those are two separate questions. Yes, on the first question of who they want, I mean, that sounds like spin to me. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez would be nice for Disney because they are the stars of a Hulu show called Only Murders in the Building. And Hulu is majority owned by Disney, which owns ABC, which airs the Oscars. So that's why they are positive there. I don't think that pairing brings any new viewers. It doesn't feel special to me. Steve Martin has hosted the Oscars before. Yes, Selena Gomez might bring in a younger group of viewers. She has a ton of Instagram followers, but I don't know if that moves the needle. That doesn't make you take stock and be like, whoa, wow, It's not like if they got, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez or something like that, where you're like, oh, that's interesting. Or Zendaya and Tom Holland, which was the dream of the Oscars because they are the stars of the number one movie of the year, Spider-Man No Way Home. They are dating in real life, and they are two stars that appeal to a much younger and broader crowd. That would be the dream team. Now, the second part of that question is, does it matter at all? My take on this is, short of a huge stunt that would cause initial tune-in, I don't think the host matters that much. Having a host is good. We've shown that it can be an effective marketing vehicle, but, it doesn't really matter who it is because fundamentally the Oscar show is broken. They have refused to update the show for modern times. The modern audience does not care about any of the awards other than the big five: picture, actor, actress, supporting, and director. Those are the big ones. Those are six actually, but the rest of them should not be on the show. They should be relegated to a mention or a pre-show or something like that. They've got to reinvent this show to make it a television broadcast that people will want to see, that celebrates movies in a way that will be appealing to the average person who have not watched these movies that are nominated. They just haven't. So, we'll see what they do.
If you had to pick, if you had to guess, who's going to host?
If I had to guess, it would be the Hulu people. It would be Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, because they have, keep in mind, people don't want to host the Oscars. It is the essential, it's basically getting up there on a firing squad for the internet and everybody else to take aim at you. The industry people all criticize you. It's a pain in the butt. You don't make that much money. And, the big stars don't need to do it. So who does need to do it? Someone like Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, who are promoting a show for Disney. And if they got a call from the CEO of Disney saying, hey, do this, please, it might make a difference there.
And you think Bob Chapek will continue as CEO of Disney, for now, at least?
For now. I mean, he's been in the job 2 years. The stock is in the toilet. That's not necessarily his fault, because they had a run up during the pandemic when people thought they were a streaming video company. And they convinced Wall Street that because of the growth of Disney Plus, they were a Netflix competitor. That's all come down to earth. But if he doesn't turn that around in the next year or so, he's on a 3-year contract. He's going to be in trouble.
Matt Belloni, Puck.News from Los Angeles. Are the Dodgers going to play on time? We hear there's some good meetings happening, Matt.
I'll believe it when I see it. The two sides are so far apart, and they don't seem to have the best interests of the game and the fans in mind. You look at what the NFL has done with, this season, and recovering from some of the scandals about concussions and, the Black Lives Matter movement. Baseball has just really fallen in the connection with the fans, and a labor impasse like this is only making it worse.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We would encourage people that want more information like this, and you've got a great stable of writers there at Puck.News, don't you? How can they sign up? What do they need to do?
Yeah, it's very easy. Just go to Puck.News, and you can do a free trial. You can sign up for a newsletter, and then you can subscribe if you want. It's very easy. So check us out. I'm also on Twitter at Matt Belloni, MattBelloni. You can sign up for me.
Matt Belloni. And Matt, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you doing this very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.